Good morning. This is Bob Gorley with podcast number 108. And with us today we have Karen Grosch. And how are you today, Karen?
I'm well, thank you. And you?
Wonderful. Where did you grow up at, Karen?
I grew up right here, Porter Township, my formative years.
And what was your maiden name?
My maiden name was Bish.
Bish? And what part of Porter Township?
Just about 1.5 miles from where we are now.
And how did you know the Henrys?
James T. and Martha Henry were my grandparents. And my parents lived we lived in a small house on their farm. And that's where that was, as I said, my formative years.
How did you know, so you knew Jim Connell Henry all your life?
He was my uncle.
Your uncle?
My mother's youngest brother, he was the baby, and my mother's younger brother.
Well, when Connell passed, Judy was saved by you when you came in to
I don't know about that.
cure some of his treasures.
Well, he was, Uncle Connell was, he was a farmer and an entrepreneur in his own right. And so she needed a little bit of help with settling things out, and, you know, knowing him as I did from birth on, you had to kind of know how he thought.
Judy really appreciated that. And
well.
I was tickled that she had some help because, wow.
It was a sudden loss, and there was a few things left undone, and she needed some guidance, so it wasn't hard to step in.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I actually have three sisters and a brother.
And are they all still alive?
They are all still living.
Excellent. And where were you in that range?
You had to ask the birth order, right?
Yeah.
I'm the oldest.
Oh, well, that takes a lot of responsibility then.
A little bit. Kind of makes for being the built-in babysitter when you're a little older, but it was fun.
Can you paint a picture of what life was like growing up in rural Clarendon County?
Oh my. I don't know. My grandparents were farmers, and farm life was just, you just learned as you grew, I guess is what I want to say. But the experiences of just being in Porter Township and knowing so many people, and everything that you learned. I went first and second grade to Porter Township Elementary School, which years ago was actually the Porter Township High School. So I think it's the things that you learn growing up that mold and shape you, and they're the memories that you will have forever.
Can you, what are some of the fondest memories of this time?
Fondest memories. I just think many experiences are a fond memory. I remember being the little girl that went to Belknap, which was a livestock auction barn, and riding with my grandfather in the cattle truck. And then some of the neighbors around here. If my grandfather, he delivered cattle after the auction to different farms, and many times a neighbor brought me home when the auction was over, and like I said, those are the things you remember, and friendships that do form, and you try to maintain them throughout your lifetime. And I think I've held on to those friendships and those acquaintances throughout my lifetime. That makes it always nice to come back home.
The Belknap experience, were you able to stay awake on the way home?
And no, no. I was always the kid that fell asleep.
Me too.
They did have good hot dogs though, didn't they, Robert?
It was just an experience.
It was an experience.
How did growing up in a rural community shape your values and perspectives on life?
Values, I think the value of your neighbors and your friendship and pulling together to help to help the other farmers and your neighbors. And I think that was the value. And then your experiences, I think as farm children and rural, country kids, we learned to make do and learned how to, which I think is invaluable.
What a treasure growing up as a farmer kid.
It is. It really is.
You said you went 2 years to Porter, then where did you go after that?
Mom and Dad moved to Rural Valley, and we lived down there for a while, and then we returned back to Clarion County. And then, as most girls do, you grow up, you go off to college, and you get married, and you move.
So what school did you graduate from, high school?
I graduated from Brookville area,
So,
and then went to Du Bois Business College.
and what did you take up there?
I took accounting and secretarial stenography.
And that's what Connell Henry needed all his life.
He definitely needed, he needed someone to keep him organized.
What was Clarion County and Jefferson County like in the 50s and 60s? 60s anyways.
50s and 60s. I do remember one of my memories was, and having the Clarion County Fairs winding up, but as my mother was a majorette in high school, so as a little girl, I twirled baton on the grandstand at Alcoa Park. They used to have a baseball team, a local baseball team, and I would twirl baton, and I think I was like 3, 4, 5 years old in that age bracket for the opening of the games. And, then just progressing through life, just little things that you did. And in the 60s, then it was like, wow, learning to drive was a big thing. And I had a little bit of an advantage on that because I already knew how to drive a tractor. So, it wasn't too hard, to switch to 4 wheels instead of, 3 or 4. It was a little different, but it was fun.
When we're talking about driving, have you ever hit a deer?
How many?
Yeah. I was curious because we have a lot of deer in the neighborhood around here.
Yes, we did. The first one I hit, I was in high school, and I was driving home. I had a part-time job, and I was driving home from Brookville on 322. And it was on a bank, and it just jumped. It literally straddled. It straddled the hood of the car, and I just kept on going home because I didn't know what to do with it.
Well, at least you did not get hurt.
No, I did not get hurt.
When you moved to Clarion,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed like you got involved with some of the university people and stuff like that?
I did. When I moved back, I lived in Florida for 4 years in the early 70s, and then when I returned, I came back to Clarion, and when I remarried, and when I married my husband, he was a school teacher, and Clarion University, he was a Clarion University graduate, and Clarion was the center of the earth to him. And then he was always active with the community and the university, and then became active with the alumni board. And he and his fraternity brothers together established a endowment scholarship program for football players because they were all football people. And it has grown well, and we became very, very active in the community and things like that. So always tried to promote Clarion. Because I think it's a great place to raise children, and just you don't have to deal with so many of the things that you do in a more urban and metropolitan area.
So you got to meet L. Jacks?
I did, yes. Great gentleman, great coach.
He did
His
wonders.
wife Karen.
They did wonders up here at Clarion.
He did.
What was the hardest part about leaving Clarion County after so many years?
The hardest part about leaving Clarion was after losing my husband, I stuck it out for a couple years, and my daughter had moved, her husband was relocated to Florida, and I was separated from grandchildren. I have 4 grandchildren, 2 older. One is a senior at Point Park this year, and the next is going to Mercyhurst this fall. And then my daughter had twins, and they were still in elementary school when they were transferred. So I had to kind of make a choice, and I stayed 2 years in Clarion after his passing, and I decided I needed to be a little closer to help them out. So I moved. It was hard to leave because I have a great circle of friends, many, many friends up here, and of course family up here. So it was a tough choice to make, but as I said, Porter Township will always be home. So I always have a place to come back to, and doesn't mean I can't just come back here when the kids are grown and I can just pick up maybe where I left off.
So having twin grandchildren in Florida, one of them was a gifted swimmer, and the other one was a...
Yes, my daughter was always very adamant that her kids were going to be involved in something. She and her husband took them they tried all the sports, and one Lily is in gymnastics, Logan is in swimming, and doing quite well. We're very proud of both of them. They both are on competition teams. So we do a lot of traveling. There's an awful lot of divide and conquer, especially when one has to be perhaps Savannah or Atlanta, and one has to be in Orlando, Ocala, or someplace like that. So.
Are they out of high school yet, or are they still in high school?
No, they're both going to be sophomore in 10th grade this year.
So they still got lots of...
And Florida's different. They got their learner's permit. There you get your learner's permit at 15 and have to keep it for a year before you can take it. You have to have it for a year, so many hours.
Did both of them get their permit?
Yes, they did, on your birthday.
All right. How does being a grandmother compare to being a parent?
Oh, it's great. I think that's being a grandparent's the fun part. And the grandchildren love it because they know that they're getting away with things that their parents didn't.
I would agree with you 100%.
It is.
What lessons from raising your own kids do you have to bring to your grandkids?
Lessons from raising: be involved. Be involved in your children's lives and your grandchildren's life. Because I think when you're involved, you have a much better sense of what's going on, and always be available to them. And never be too busy.
Time is precious, and that's what you're saying.
Is.
Spend time with them.
As much as you possibly can, and be involved.
How does being a grandmother compare to being a parent? Well,
It's
I
more
guess
fun.
that's the same one, I guess.
It's more fun.
What's one piece of wisdom from your life that you like to pass down to your grandchildren?
Piece of wisdom. Always be sure of yourself. Don't be afraid to try new things. I think that's kind of difficult at times, but if you have confidence in yourself, you can do it. And just be you, and be kind.
Sounds like you're saying trust yourself
Mhm.
and keep curious.
Oh, always be a lifetime learner.
Excellent. Uh, Florida is a big change from Pennsylvania. How are you finding the weather, culture, or lifestyle down there?
Oh, it is a big change. It's very busy. You get a little tired of 4-lane highways sometimes, you know, and it's been very nice being up here this summer. It's a lot, the weather's a lot more pleasant and enjoyable in the summer, but it's nice to be away from the winter too.
So Florida is way more active
Oh, yeah.
compared to rural Porter Township.
It is, and it's a different type of activity. It seems like to go to anything, you have to drive a little bit of a distance, and it always depends on the weather, because one thing I found, it seems like we always have a shower in the middle of the afternoon, and then it gets hot.
Looking back, what's one thing you wish you could tell your younger self growing up in Clarion County?
Tell myself. I don't know. I guess just go for it. You know, don't hold back.
How do you stay connected to your roots in Clarion County now that you live in Florida?
The world of technology. Phone calls. I am more phone calls. I'm not a big texter. Don't really care for texting. I just feel you need to reach out and keep in touch.
Do you FaceTime when you call?
Yes.
That's, we only dreamt about that when we were growing up.
I know. But, and with the world today, everything, you know, when we were growing up, you usually settled close to or within driving distance of your homestead. And that's so different today. You yourself. You had children in California and or wherever. Now they're so diversified, you have to be willing to travel. And without media and FaceTime, how do you see, you know, your kids are growing up and it's not something you say, oh, I'll run over or I'll be there tomorrow.
What's something that your grandchildren have taught you?
They are trying to teach me to be a little more patient. Yes, I tend to be, okay, right now.
Isn't that a lifelong pursuit, patience?
I think so. I think so.
Are there any hobbies or activities you picked up in Florida that you didn't have time for before?
Hobbies, well, when my husband was alive, we used to do a lot of bike riding. We enjoyed going up to Cook Forest and riding the River Road. And we did that probably about 4 or 5 times a week when the weather, you know, weather permitting. But so I've gotten back into bike riding. And so I do quite a bit of bike riding in the development. They have a, what do I want to say? I think it's like 2-mile circle around the housing development
A bike
that
trail.
I can ride. It's not really a bike trail. I mean, it's just you can ride. So trying to do that as often as I can, but you have to do it early in the morning or in the evening.
Have you switched over to an e-bike?
No. I have a nice little rose-colored cruiser.
What's one story from your life that you want your grandchildren to remember you by?
Oh my goodness. What story? I can't even think. There's just so. I guess just the fact that, you know, I wouldn't call it a story, but it's just for them to realize that for as long as I'm here, I'm always there for them.
Why do you think you got to meet so many different people?
Well, I think it was just social events and being involved. You know, you meet people through employment. I, you know, work worked 30 years cumulative for 2 local attorneys, and then I did a 10-year stint with a financial firm. And you meet people, and your interaction with them, both as clients and people that you know, and you get to know their families, and it just branches out. And then with my husband's social involvement and activity with the university, you always make connections, and I think it's very important. I think that you need that social interaction to be progressive and just keep going.
What was the worst time you had in your life?
I've had several, but I think, of course, losing parents, losing friends, to different illnesses, and losing my husband was difficult. So, but you try to come out stronger for it. But I think those have been the hardest parts of times for me. Was the adjustments to the sudden changes and changes that you really didn't want.
Is there any other subject you want to cover while we're doing this chat?
No, not really, other than it's just, as I said, it's good to come home. It's good to reconnect with people that you've known, and see that, even though things change, your heart is always back home.
Well, I'd like to thank you for this interview, and it will be on YouTube and Facebook probably within a week. But
Well, thank you.
thank you.